Welcome to the Fearless Happiness Podcast, where we showcase phenomenal individuals who have overcome serious traumas, life obstacles, and challenges to find their own path to fearless happiness. Listen as Max Njist invites guests from all around the world to share their experiences and spread strength, hope, and faith. This is the Fearless Happiness Podcast, and this is Max Njist.
All right, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this world. This is Max. I tell you guys all the time, but it's so true. I have another special and amazing guest joining me today. His name is Jason Lyle. But what I like to do, Jason, is have you introduce yourself to my audience, like who you are, what it is you do, and then you and I are going to rock and roll.
Yeah, man. Name's Jason Lyle. I do central nervous system work or autonomic nervous system regulation for men. Most of them either working through an addiction or a major life event that causes them some sort of dysregulation. Sometimes it's divorce, sometimes it's grief, sometimes it's drug addiction, sometimes it's all manner of things. But I teach impulse control. I teach men how to find happiness through their own decisions and how to live in their own bodies after they've been through different levels of traumatic events. And I also have, that's called Sacred Grit. And so I also have the Sacred Grit podcast. And then outside of that, I run a men's alumni group called Adventures in Recovery. We rock climb, mountain bike, hike, hunt, fish, all manner of things. But it's just a group of guys who meet monthly to get outside and do life together.
I love it. And we need more of that, right?
Yeah.
Something in the positive realm of like what you're doing, because you and I know, we see it in the news. I mean, they're just trying to how do you put it without and we won't get into some political, but you know what I mean? It's like they want us all sick, if you know what I mean. And that's why I love having guys like Jason here that go out and make sure that men are doing what men should do, right? Becoming strong and continuing to be the best they can be. I like to say the best and most elite version of themselves so they can take care of their families. And like me and Jason were talking about, being the best grandpas ever, right?
Yeah.
And having fun with it.
Yeah.
So what I like to do, Jason, is, I want you to go back. You go back as far or deep as you want, but talk about those challenges and struggles that have shaped who you are today. And then we'll get into what you do exactly and stuff like that.
Yeah, man. So I was adopted. I was 20 or 2 weeks old when I was adopted, and adopted out of foster care. And so I grew up, great family, great parents, leave it to beaver type stuff. Mom worked. Mom stayed at home, dad went to work, the whole thing. But very early on, I developed a very unhealthy relationship with sex and with different, porn and other things that I struggled with as a young man. And that kind of carried itself on over into my later adult life. Got married young, was 19 when I got married. And I think, looking back on that, I felt like that might be a path to where, I would have been able to get those things under control, but was not. I was always a bit of a spiritual being. And so at 33 years old, I went into the ministry and became a pastor here just south of Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh.
And that addiction is what I'll call it, followed me around. And in 2017, I lost my job as a pastor because of my decisions around sex and other relationships. And in 2021, I was at the point of ending my life. I had, decided that that's what I was going to do. And I had spent some time in between losing my job as pastor and this moment in time when I decided to end my life in a wilderness therapy program as a guide. Actually, I was working with young adolescents who struggled with all manner of things. And in that process, I met a man named Rob Gent. And Rob Gent introduced me to nervous system work. And we were in a training one night, and Rob, strangely enough, a lot of the kids we work with in wilderness therapy were adopted, a lot of them from Russia and different places across the globe. And so he started talking about adoption trauma. and he started talking about things like flipping your lid and which means basically the prefrontal cortex loses communication to the amygdala, or the rational brain loses communication to the survival brain, and you have these irrational actions. And he said things like, these kids run away in the middle of the night, they're in the middle of 40,000 acres of the woods, there's no way they're going anywhere, what would make somebody do that, it doesn't make sense. And we're like, yeah, what is that? He goes, well, that's because they don't have access to the rational brain. They've experienced a trauma. And that's the first time that I really got introduced to preverbal trauma and the idea of nervous system regulation. And so, in the midst of my dysregulation, when I had decided to take my own life, one of the things I decided to do is like, well, it's either this or I'm going to contact Rob. So I got a hold of Rob, and he emailed me back immediately, which in and of itself was interesting because he was the chief clinical officer of a very a behavioral health company that's nationally known here in the United States. Got a hold of me, and he was like, I know exactly who you are. Let's meet. And so we talked over a Zoom call, and Rob handed me the tools of yoga, breath work, meditation, and cold water immersion as ways to regulate my nervous system. And man, all I could tell you is from October, I think it was October 19th in 2021, when I got in my first ice bath, to this day, it has revolutionized my life. I don't know of anything else that I have tried that has given me this level of peace and happiness and joy. And so through that, I started sharing that with other men, and that's where Sacred Grit came from. And we're, several hundred men strong now that have heard this information and put it into place. And we have a regular alumni, probably 40 or 50 guys who are always active. But we've seen everything from heroin addicts to men who lost their son to tragic accidents or daughters to tragic accidents, who were kind of limping through life because of the grief that they had experienced. Divorce, we have seen marriages put back together. I mean, you name it, we've seen it, and it's all come through these practices. And so it's kind of like it's my gospel, man. I love to talk about it, and it's it works for women too. And I certainly don't have any desire to shortchange women, but I am a man, and it works very well for men. And most women are not all that keen on getting in ice cold water, but men seem to be a little bit more open to it.
Well, I've been open to it for a while. It's funny that you mentioned that. I keep telling my wife, we got to get like an ice bath and we got to try this stuff, right? Because I hear, well, where I first heard it from is Wim Hof, obviously,
Yep.
right? The guy has the world record for the longest underwater ice
Mm-hmm.
swim on the
Yep.
planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've mentioned this before, but I mean, a guy who can, regulate, like you said, his central nervous system through his brain, right? And go walk up Mount Everest with
Yep.
just shorts and shoes
Mm-hmm.
on,
Yep.
in my book, is a superhuman, right? Like,
Yeah.
but any of you like yourself, that there is something, because there is proof there. Like the research is showing that like these ice baths help in so many areas of your life, not just physical, like rehab of your body. Because right, we know that athletes use them, like after practice, after games, they go jump in an ice bath to help, the healing process after being
Remove inflammation. Yeah. Mhm.
exactly. So like, but definitely want to connect with you after this, because I'm looking for, I've got some healing still to go on, even though I've been sober over 22 years now, going into year 23, right? Like you said, there's been a lot of grief
Yeah.
on my side, in my family, and I can tell you that later. But so, when you discovered this, right? I mean, I know like you, because like certain things that light bulb goes on and you go, oh, it's
Yeah.
been in front of me the whole time. Like, why didn't I get this sooner? But once you figured it out, right? And as you're going, what was that process like when you started, right? Because I want the audience to understand, like, you just don't heal. Like you do it one day and then the next day, oh, look at me, I'm all good, right? Because we know addiction is an addiction. It doesn't matter if it's porn, drugs, your phone, social
Yeah.
media, right? Anything
Mhm.
that's going to prevent you from like moving forward in your life, I like to say, and not care about those negative consequences that come along with it, right? But how was that for you, like, as you were going through this journey? Because, I mean, I can relate, right? As you know, I have days where like, "Oh, cool, I'm on the right path," and then days you wake up out of nowhere, you go, "What am I doing?" Like, but, you know, it's part of that process.
Yeah.
But, you know, and this is I'm glad you're here because I love giving my audience all these different perspectives on how to heal, right? Whether it's guys, you know, or the girls or anybody who's looking for some type of recovery, because I believe in our lifetimes, we're always recovering from something. And
Mhm.
I'm glad you're here because you can show my audience, our audience, the positive aspects of doing something, you know, instead of the typical, I'm going to go to the doctor and get a pill and I'll feel
Yeah.
better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, man. Here's the thing. It's like as Americans, and we are, and I think you may not be. I don't. Where does your roots go to?
So I'm Dutch Indonesian.
Dutch
So
Indonesia. Okay.
my roots go back to Indonesia and Holland.
Okay. All right. So as well, we'll just say it this way. We are a Western mindset culture. We come from the
Yeah.
Greek understand, like everything that influences Americans is Greek. And Greek is thought. I think, therefore I am, right?
Right.
Eastern cultures will go to Buddhism and Hinduism and a lot of the different Eastern religions. They're all body based. That's where yoga comes from. Yoga gives the body a voice, right? And so yogis would say that your body has as much to say as your mind does. But Americans have become mind centered people. And that's why we think that we can think ourselves into a new way of being. But yogis would say we have to be ourselves into a new way of thinking. So, what the things that I teach do, and you know, when you think my guys listening, I'm definitely not, I'm no Wim Hof, I've never been up Mount Everest, but we do go in January and hike up the local mountain here with nothing but shirts and shorts and sandals on. You know, we go
Um,
shirtless, but I encourage them because everything that you see Wim do, it is all about being able to control your body with your mind. And that's
right.
also giving your body control of your mind as well. So it's like this two-way communication. So if you think about it long enough, our bodies have something that says to our minds pain, hunger,
Right.
fear. You feel all those things, even a craving for an addiction. You feel them in your body before they hit your mind. Your mind is just a mechanism by which goes, this is what we do to take care of that craving. If
Right.
you can reestablish the communication with your body and your mind, you can start to understand what your body is saying and go, oh, wait a minute. That doesn't make sense giving the context of this moment. I'll give you an example. So when someone has a craving to drink alcohol, if they are not an alcoholic, that may not be a big deal. It may just be, oh, you know, I want a cold beer. I'm hanging out here with the
Right.
buddies and we're going to have a beer. But if somebody knows every time I take a drink, I end up in jail or I end
Right.
up, you know, with
Right.
some problem at home, I lose a job, whatever happens, to grab that drink means that they are making a choice that goes against their own well being. But if they can stop for a minute and go, wait a minute,
Right.
that leads this to there, which in recovery speak, we say play the tape all the way to the end. If I drink this
Right.
beer, that's going
Yeah.
to end up there. If they
Right.
can interrupt that process and go, wait a minute, that is leading me to a place that I don't want to be. Now they can go, wait a minute, I can make a loving decision back to myself. Now,
Right.
in the context of the work that I do, we call that flipping the lid. And then we say that we can reconnect the prefrontal cortex to the limbic system. So when I have an urge, usually, not usually, every time that urge is the amygdala, which is our fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, is
Right.
our survival response telling us we need something. What the survival or the rational brain does is it makes a decision to calm that amygdala down. If that communication is not clear between the two, so if rational thought can't come online in that moment of the impulse, we'll just go grab whatever makes us happy.
Right.
When someone can reconnect that prefrontal cortex, they go, I want to drink. They go, oh, wait a minute. No, I don't. I want connection. Let me make a phone call. They may say, oh, I really want to watch porn. No, I don't. I really need connection. let me go for a walk with a friend, let me go talk to my partner, whatever that may be. They're able to get
Right.
the rational thought instead of getting back on that hamster wheel of addiction. Because addiction is nothing more than an attempt to soothe a primal need, but it's just a misdirected way to do it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Well, okay, coming from a 12-step background, and like I
Mhm.
always pre tell everybody, I'm not trying to push any 12 steps, right? And the only reason I bring it up because I keep seeing people that criticize the 12-step process, but
Yeah.
whatever. That's their choice.
Yep.
But that's kind of what I was taught, right? Is when I have that urge or that craving, like in the beginning when you're new, my sponsor said, call me.
Yep.
Right. I'm gonna interrupt that thought,
Gotta
right?
get
We'll
in that
have it
loop.
right. So, and it worked, right? 22 plus years later, I know that stuff works. Yeah, I know 12 steps are not for everybody, but like I want you to listen to what Jason is saying, right? Because that's in my private practice is what I teach. It's that mind, body, spirit connection, right? If I can get someone who doesn't necessarily do 12 steps, but can stop and what I tell them, stop, think, and breathe, right?
Yeah.
When you're ready to pick up that phone to call your connect, before you pick it up, I want you to stand up, look where you're at, right?
Ground
Take a deep
yourself.
yeah, take a deep breath and then think about what you're about to do. And
Yeah.
like you said, you can stop that, right? And this is, that's why I used to be that old fashioned dude, like an old timer, right? Like when I first started, like if you don't do the 12 steps with me, then I can't work with you and I don't want to watch you die kind of guy, right?
Yep.
But now I understand recovery. This is why I love having you here, right? Like I have someone who's struggling with that but wants to recover. I can say, hey, go talk to Jason. He's got some
Mhm.
great stuff you can do that
Yeah.
you might like, right? And
Yeah.
let him go try different stuff. Like I'm just a guide now. I understand I'm a guide. I'm not the guru that tells you this is how you're going to do it, or the therapist, right? And we're going to dig into your childhood, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
I tell folks I'm a coach, and what I'm coaching you how to do is to hear the voice that's already inside of you, because that's the one that holds the truth. And so it's, as you said just a minute ago, with the 12 steps, and I use the 12 steps in my
Yeah.
business because the 12 steps are giving someone a sober mind when they don't
Right.
have one. The
Right.
12 steps are giving you this ability to think with a sober mind when you can't quite do it on your own. The thing that I love about nervous system regulation is when, I talk to guys about a higher power, because I was raised a Christian. I wouldn't say I'm an evangelical Christian anymore. I kind of believe in this all loving energy that some people call God, some people call it the universe, some people call it the divine, call it whatever you
Right.
want to. It's the energy of love.
Right.
And I do believe that in order to get and stay sober, we have to come to a place to believe that there's a power greater than ourselves that can restore us to sanity. And one of my guys I work with, we were working through some step two stuff. Man, one thing I have guys doing, they're working through step two, is define your higher power. And this guy was not raised in a Christian, no religious background.
Right.
We're sitting in the Waffle House. I don't know if you know what that is in California. We're sitting in a Waffle House here in
Yeah, I
Georgia.
know. We
And
actually have one here at Waffle House in Anaheim.
nice. And he looks across the table at me, he gets this look on his face. He goes, "I know what my higher power is." I'm like, "All right, what is it?" He goes, "My next decision. That is my higher power, because that's what's making my future come to life." I'm like, "You got it, brother.
There you
That is
go.
it." And when you could submit your next decision to loving yourself, you'll have a beautiful life. There's no way that you cannot have a beautiful life if you can submit your current decision to loving yourself. And I have found, for the guys that I work with, just for them to be able to love themselves, they have to give themselves a container in which they can love. And
Right.
dude, when you're getting up every morning and you're doing things that make you feel good about yourself, you can fall in love with yourself. And you fall in love with yourself, you don't want to harm yourself. If you don't want to harm yourself, you sure as hell don't want to harm another person. And if you don't want to harm another person, well, then you're actually loving what Christians would call God and what the rest of us would call just the universe, the energy, the
Right.
power that holds all this together.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more, Jason, because and then that creates connections with others. If
Yeah.
like the old saying, you cannot love someone until you love yourself, which
Yep.
we understand is true. I know when I came into recovery, right? Like I hated myself and like one of the top of my list on my, my 4-step was God, right? Like,
Yeah.
but, having a loving sponsor who didn't tell me what I had to do, but always, I called him my Yoda. And people here, I call him my Yoda because I always say, Daryl, dude, his name is Daryl. I said, I'm going to come into your house or your office and you're going to be floating in the middle of the room with this green aura telling me to use the force, right? Because every time you've told me to do something and I said, I'm not going to do it, I'd go out and I'd find myself doing it. And I go, oh, shit, he did it again.
Yeah.
But, and I understand that, right? But that's why I said, like, like for me, when I found that higher power first that brought me back, for me, it's God, right? I remember we had to go to this men's meeting, right? When I was in the treatment/sober living. And it's the biggest men's stag in California. It's so big, they had to split it between 3 places, right?
Oh, wow.
So, and every Tuesday night at all 3 places, it's a standing room only meeting. It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
So when I told my sponsor, I go, I'm not praying to God like he did this, and if he loved me so much, why'd he stick me in jail? And but that's another podcast, right? He said, okay, we're going to the meeting tonight. I want you to, and we walked in together, and he goes, I'm not going to tell you to believe in God but why don't you believe in the power of this group? And as I looked around, how big it was, and everybody's talking, having a good time, and then I'm talking guys that were tatted from the neck down, hugging guys in 3-piece suits, right? Like and I look at him and I go, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
I can do that. Right. And yes, it's grown and evolved. And what you said, like, I believe for me, it's God or the universe, right? This loving power. Because I have to really look back, like you said, and look like I could have died in so many situations, but somebody was looking out for me, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm here talking with Jason because of this divine power, I believe.
Yeah.
And we're spreading, what Jason is to the world. And but there's guys out here listening to us, or even the women, right? And they're like, how is that stuff gonna help me, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've tried everything. And I said, well, maybe you haven't, right? Like, maybe you haven't tried ice baths or yoga or meditation or anything like that. Why don't you give it a chance, right? Like, because I do that in the addiction field, right? Like, I tell, especially this younger generation, drives me crazy. As we were talking about being grandpas, right? Like, like, you're so tough. Like, in my head, sometimes it's like, really? I go, you're not very tough right now because you're crying about going through some withdrawal symptoms. Where I know guys that would have been like, I got to power through this and we're going to get this done, right? But how do you approach someone who might come to you, Jason, and go, well, I've tried everything. What's going to be the difference with you? Like, how is that going to work for me?
Yeah, usually when people say I've tried everything, I'll say, well, tell me what you tried and tell me how long you tried it. Because most of the time, when people say that, they're just full of shit. It means that they went to 6 meetings.
Right.
They went to 6 meetings. Oh, that didn't work. Yeah, they would check themselves into 30 days worth of
Right.
residential. Oh, that didn't work. Yeah, it's like, usually when somebody says that, they have refined the art of bullshittery. And so, the
I
thing
love it.
that
I love
what
it.
I tell guys when I work with them is this: there is nobody coming for you. There is nobody coming to fix you. There is nobody going to make you better. There's nobody on the face of this planet that you can get better for until you are willing to take responsibility for your own life. Don't waste my time, because you're just going to keep going through this cycle. And then you're going to overdose on heroin, be dead in a ditch, and I have to grieve that bullshit. So when you get ready to get better for you because you love you, then we'll talk. That's number 1. Number 2, and this comes from one of my clients, I didn't come up with this one: repetition is the mother of skill. So if you want to be skilled at being sober, you do the reps. That means you go to meetings, you work the steps. And in my world, that means you get your ass in the cold water, you do some breath work, you do some meditation, you give yourself the tools by which to cope, and you put in the hard work. Most folks that are in an addictive cycle did not get there in one day. They have been going in this cycle for years, but it blows my mind. They're like, well, I've been at this for 6 months and I don't feel any better. I'm like, okay. I mean, that's like saying, well, Rome got built in 7 days. Like, no,
Right.
man, like you took years to get your ass in this mess.
Right. Because
And
you
so
ask
it's
them
gonna
that, right? You say, how long you been using it? They go like 20 years. I go, oh, okay. So you think 6 months is going to cure you. Okay, let's
yeah,
keep going.
yeah. But to be fair and listen, I'm in the southeast United States in Georgia, and so we're in the Bible Belt. Everybody's got this whole Jesus is gonna fix me shit. And I mean, maybe. I'm not saying if that's what you want to believe. I mean, maybe that there's going to
Right.
be some bright light come from the sky, and all of a sudden you don't want heroin anymore. I can tell you that that's a very rare occasion. And everybody who I
Right.
know that did the God made me sober they're back high again. So what I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, 100% across the board, every human being that I know that has worked with me that has daily practiced that means some level of cold water exposure because that is just 100% being a badass. When you can wake up at 5 a.m. and go get an ice water for 3 minutes, you start your day as a badass. They do a minimal amount of yoga, just giving their body a voice. 3 rounds of breath work. That would be the Wim Hof method, is what I use, and meditation. And they're going to meetings and working the steps. I do not have a single one that has relapsed. Every guy that I have that works with me that has relapsed, and I ask them, the first question I say, how long you been not practicing? They'll say about 3 weeks, 4
Yeah.
weeks. And it's the reps, man. And we have created a culture of get it now. I can Google it and have the answer. I can take the pill and feel
Right.
better. I can get Ozempic and lose weight.
Yep.
Whatever you lay it all out there, recovery does not work that way. If you have
No.
wired your brain in destructive habits, you have to rewire it in the opposite direction. And brains are not cell phones. They are much more complex. And the
Right.
myelination process that gets those habits into our autonomic nervous system, the only way to break that stuff up is to reverse the process. And so all I do with the nervous system work is just give people, listen, dude, the tiniest amount of pause. If I can just get them to pause for just a split second to go, wait a minute, I'm about to use, and decide in the other direction, I've done my job. And if they just do
Right.
it one time, they start getting the compounding returns. They wake up every day, they go, golly, I feel like I'm getting better. I was
Yeah.
on the call with a guy earlier today, and man, he was adopted at birth too, just my spirit animal. My man was born addicted to crack. His mom was addicted to crack. So he had to go through withdrawals as a baby, got adopted into a great family, middle class, grew up great. But I mean, goes through this methamphetamine heroin cycle just over and over and over. It's from childhood trauma, but he is getting better. He is starting to feel it, and you can see it in his countenance. This ability to go, I am able to see my behaviors. I'm able to stop, to pause. And I use the 4 words: breathe, pause, choose, live. I tell the guys, take a big breath, take a
Right.
pause, make a choice, and that's going to determine how you
Love it.
live. And he's starting to do that. And it's a choice. And I tell my guys all the time, addiction is a choice. And they'll say, well, it doesn't feel like a choice. I'm like, it doesn't matter what it feels like. That doesn't change the fact that
Right.
you are the only one that can choose not to use. And that may mean you need support. That may mean you need to make phone calls. That may even mean sometimes you need medication to help you get through the initial white knuckling part, because there is
Right.
a white knuckling part, but it still doesn't change the fact that it's a choice.
Right. But see, I'd rather have that choice sober, right?
Yeah.
Knowing I can, right? Because I don't know about you. When I lose all power of choice because
All of it.
then
Yeah.
the drugs and the alcohol and everything just takes over. But
What
this
you're
is what I
choosing,
like.
you're just choosing in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I'm choosing and absolutely because that part
Yeah.
of my brain says this part will be better, even though it's wrong. And how many times have you done that in the past when you were in it going, I know this is wrong, but I'm gonna do it anyway
Oh,
because,
hundred thousands. Yeah.
right? But
Yeah. I
that's what
know
I
I
love.
shouldn't be doing this. Yeah.
Exactly. And I love what you said though, right? That's like people that 12 steps said, 12 steps don't work for me. And I go, well, wait a minute. What step did you get to? I've never done them. Well, then how do you know if they work or not?
Or they
Like,
get
you
to
know what I mean?
4. They're like, I made it to
Yeah.
4.
Yeah. I go, but did you do 4? No, I stopped as soon as I saw I had to make this fearless and moral inventory. Like I said, everyone, this is, it's like that life. Remember the life commercial with Mikey? Hey, give it to
Oh,
Mikey.
yeah.
He hates everything. And then Mikey eats it and all Mikey likes it, right? Because he figured like, okay, I'm going to try this. Oh, it's good. I'm going to eat it, right? It's like these things, however you choose to heal, right? Right. Don't let the outside noise tell you, well, it's like a cult and you got to all do this and you got to say you're powerless. You know, the biggest thing I've learned from my recovery is that I'm not powerless. I'm very powerful when I get that choice back to go, like you said, stop and pause just long enough to go, yep, better not go down this route because I know where it's going to take me. Right.
Mhm.
And this is what I tell my audience and the people I work with. It's like, we got to rewire our brains, right? Like, that's why I push it, but you know, they don't always listen, but I start with a gratitude journal, right? To start
Yeah.
putting some positive things in the brain. But
Yeah.
then I show them proof. I go Google it, go on YouTube. You'll actually see when you start doing like putting positive things in your brain, you'll build new neural pathways. So there's your
Oh,
science.
yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, it's
And
it's compounding returns, yeah.
absolutely, right? And like you said, when we can, like you and I, not know each other, we've connected, right? Like we
Yeah.
know because we're kind of on the same plane. And there's nothing like connection, everybody. Like, remember, whatever you're trying to heal from or overcome or, you know, create new habits, there's nothing like connection, man. Like, just know that you don't have to do this by yourself, whether you choose me, whether you choose Jason, whether you choose a guru or you choose somebody,
Whatever you choose,
right?
yeah. Or a
Whatever you
community.
choose, yeah, go for the community because,
Yeah.
and I share this all the time. And I know I sound like a broken record, but it was a YouTube video that changed my view on addiction big time. It was this journalist from England that says, so he talks about, you know, like how Portugal legalized everything, kind of like the Netherlands, where, you know, the crime rate went down, the crime rate, and right, it's not like addiction is not a big problem anymore, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But at the end is what got me. He says, he asked the crowd, what do you think the opposite of addiction is, right?
I've seen that video, yeah.
Right. You talk, you know, where you go, sobriety, this or that. And then he goes, nope, it's connection. And when he
Connection.
said, that's when all the work I did in the program came flashing back. And I go, now
Yeah.
I know why they say go to meetings,
Yeah.
connect with people. Because now, right, if I disappeared off the face of the planet, I have a lot of people that would come go find me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I built
Connections
those.
where God lives, man. And you know that
Absolutely.
universal the Hebrews called it the zimzoom, or this reciprocating energy that goes between two
Yeah.
people. That's why I think what Jesus said in the Bible, he says, where two or more gather, that's where
Yes.
the spirit is. It's where two people are together, because it's, you know, you don't know what you really believe until you say it out loud to somebody. You know, you
Right.
say something to somebody like, oh shit, yeah, that is what I believe. I do want to talk to your the powerless part. I love that you brought that up. Step one, we're powerless over our addiction. Our lives have become unmanageable. I tell guys all the time, they say, well, I just, you know, I don't feel like I'm powerless. I said, that's because you're not powerless. You are powerless over your addiction. It doesn't
Right.
mean you don't have power. It just means you can't leave this thing behind. And to me, when people come to admit that, and that's one of the first things I teach, brother, is honesty. And not in like honesty,
Right.
like you should tell the truth. Like, where are you? If you're drinking 12 beers and a handle of vodka every night, quit
Right.
lying to yourself and saying
Right.
that's normal behavior. That is not
Right.
normal behavior. If you're
Right.
shooting meth to get up and heroin to go to bed, not normal behavior, right? Or if you're
Absolutely.
watching pornography 7 or 8 times a day and you're using it for masturbation 7 or 8 times, that's not normal behavior. So number one, just stop lying to yourself.
Right.
That's where the honesty begins. And then you can gather some curiosity. That's the second thing I talk about. So honesty is, this is exactly where I am. Curiosity is, what can I do about it right now? Not tomorrow, not yesterday, not
Right.
5 minutes ago, not in 2 minutes from now. I'm curious, what can I do right now? Well, I can make a phone call. Well, I could go for a walk. Well, I could meditate, right? But
Right.
the third part I teach is self-love, because if
Love it.
I'm honest about where I am, I'm curious about what I can do right now. The question becomes, will I love myself enough to do it? And it has been and I'm sure yours as well. I mean, I've looked at myself in the mirror many a morning and said, you piece of shit, and spit on the mirror,
Yeah.
until I became able to love, and we started with this, I think we led with this in the beginning, to love and care for myself enough to go, "No,
Mm.
I'm worth going for a walk this morning. I'm
Right.
worth taking 20 minutes with no cell phone and meditate. I am worth eating good food. I am worth exercising. I am worth doing yoga. I am worth having healthy boundaries in my life."
Yeah.
Until I was able to do that, my wife, my kids, my parents, my dogs, my horses, my whatever I had, my hobbies, my friends, my church, my community, my
Yeah.
ashram, my whatever, I can't get sober for any of those people. I can only
No.
get sober for Jason. And when
Right.
I decided that that is what I wanted, there's nobody that can stop me from being sober, but I had to get there. And man, getting there is the bitch of the journey, isn't it? It's like just finally coming to a place and going, no, man, I love me. And
Right.
I have my guys all the time look in the mirror and say, I love me. They're like, yeah, but I don't. I said, it don't matter. Say it anyhow. What does it feel like to try it on? It's like you might not be able to afford a pair of boots, but it feels good to walk into the store and slide them on your feet and imagine that you could. So look in the mirror. Say, I
Right.
love you, dude, straight in your eyes. I love you. And if you can't
Yeah.
look at yourself in the eyes, that's okay. Try it again tomorrow. But if you can get there, there ain't nothing anybody can tell you that you can't do. And there's nothing that you can't do because when you love yourself enough, you'll make the steps to get there.
Absolutely. And that's why, like I was telling you about my sponsor,
Yeah.
Daryl, like I love that man because in the that self-hatred was so strong. He would say, okay, you're going to take a sticky note every day, write a positive affirmation on there,
Affirmation.
and
Yeah.
then you're going to stick it on your mirror in the bathroom. So every day you wake up, the first thing you're going to see is the one you did from the day before, right?
Yeah.
And thank God, right? Because I know, like, you must have felt that in the beginning. Like you said, well, it drove you to the point where you wanted to end your life, right? Like
Yeah.
that. I didn't spit on the mirror. What I would do is I would get ready in the shower, right? And do everything in the shower because I knew by the time I got out, it would be so steamy, I wouldn't have to see that dude in the mirror, right?
I like it, man. Yeah.
And
That's
I would just,
strategic right there.
yeah, I would just like walk out, right? And, I was too chicken. And I remember having a talk with one of my favorite mentors in the program. I go, yeah, I was too chicken to, kill myself when I got to that point. And he goes, no, you weren't. He goes, you were just doing it on the installment plan. And I go, what are you talking about? Because every
Yeah.
time you took a drug and a drink, you were doing it on the installment plan. And I was like, okay, God, thanks for putting all these people in my
Yeah.
life, right? And guests like
Yeah.
you and my previous guests, what I love is what you guys are really saying is that I'm going to say it again, everybody, right? We are spiritual beings having a human
That's right.
experience. And the best way to have that great human experience is through connection and community and, right, hanging out with like-minded people and just trying to learn something new every day. And like I learned, it's all I have to do is be 1% better than I was yesterday, right? And it's a new
That's right.
year, right? So I look forward to the end of the year at this year where I can do, oh, I'm 365% better than I was last year, right? Not too bad, Max,
I like
right?
it.
But it's because of guests like you that I learn something new every time I have a new guest. And I'm so grateful that like I choose to call God gave me this platform to have gentlemen like yourself to share your story and what you do to help men become better people, right? And it's to me, it's an amazing journey, right? I get to learn something new every day, when I'm
Yeah.
on here. Um, so I wanted to ask you, I'll start asking you the some of the questions that I love to ask, right? And we'll start with fearless, right? Because you and I know, even though I came in to recovery going, where I came from. Like, I'm a badass. I went to jail. I was on the streets, right? But I was actually scared little kid, right? Like, right? Because my first example was this lady. I'm still friends with her. She's probably got 36 years of sobriety, maybe more. I walk into my first meeting, right? I just got out the night before and I walk in and she gives me this big hug and says, welcome, right? With a big old at 6 a.m. And I'm like, what's wrong with you this morning? Like,
Yeah.
right? I'm in sweats and no pockets, but I'm checking in. The house manager goes, Max, you ain't got nothing she wants. So just go sit down and listen. I'm like, whatever, guy. But you know what I mean? Like I was full of fear. So, um, I like to ask my guests, what does fearless mean to you and how does that show up in your life on a daily basis?
Fearless means to me to be completely alive no matter what anybody else says, thinks, or does. And so what I mean by that is in and of myself, I can find the ability that I can dance in the aisle at Walmart, if I'm happy. And to me, fearless means to have intimacy, and not just intimacy with a sexual intimacy or with a partner. The word intimacy means into me you see. And to be fearless is to let somebody see exactly who you are. And John Eldridge wrote the book Wild at Heart back in the late 90s, I think it was. And he has a line in that book, and I love this line. It says, "Let the world feel the weight of who you are and deal with it." And to me, that's fearlessness. You just be who you are, and genuinely, because you can also
Right.
be who you're not. But if you're genuinely who you are and live your life with a level of intimacy that lets people see inside of you and be okay with it, to me, that's what fearlessness is.
Right. And if you're paying attention, everybody, it doesn't mean you're all of a sudden don't have fear, right?
Mm-mm.
If you listen, because I'm not where Jason is, right? Like I could be happy as a pig in shit, excuse my language, but I'm not gonna dance in the aisles of Walmart because I can't dance. I'm like Elaine
I can't either,
from
but I break it down sometimes.
I'm like a I'm like Elaine from that one show, you know what I mean? Where you know who I'm talking about? Where she does a dance and everybody just stops and looks at her like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, that's probably what the people at Walmart do when I start dancing, but I don't
But you know
care.
what? It's fun to be like you said, to grow into our authentic self and to just be who we were meant to be, who God or the universe or Buddha, whatever wants us to be.
Yeah.
That's truly what this journey about, I think, through all of our struggles, trials, tribulations, whatever you want to call it, right? Is to get to that point where we can just be who we are
Be
and just
brave enough to be yourself, man. Just
right.
be brave enough to be yourself. And that's what the world needs. The world doesn't need you to be somebody else. The world doesn't need some bullshit version of you that makes you feel better about you. Look in the mirror, own who you are, put a smile on your face, and walk through the world saying, "I'm here, man. I'm here."
Ex exactly.
Because you're
See, I
here.
love it. Exactly, right? That's what I've been see, I might not be able to say it that good, but you heard him, everybody, like, pay attention, right? Like, we need to just be who we are meant to be. I love it. Thanks
Yeah.
for that, Jason. We'll
You're
start
welcome.
with happiness, right? Like, as you can see, I put a Y in it. Knowing I put the Y in happiness, what does happiness mean to you, and how does that show up in your life on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think happiness is a choice, man. I think happiness is even in the midst of things that are hard to go, you know what? I'm about to put a smile on my face. There's times when I wake up in the morning and I don't feel like getting out of bed, I'm like, do that, but I will smile. And when I do, I feel it through my entire body. It's called a vagus nerve response. Your body knows that a smile means that something good's going on. If you just
I
make
love it.
yourself smile, you'll feel it from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes. You're like, you know what? I'm all right. I can get up out of this bed. And I mean, even in the middle of hard things, divorce or death in the family, you can grieve. I just here's a case in point. I have a good friend diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's. We've been friends for 30 years. We've been to Yosemite together. I told you about that
Right.
trip, traveled cross country. And so, we're on the phone earlier and it's Parkinson's getting worse and worse. And I said, "How are you?" He goes, "Well, I'm just angry and depressed." And he said, "But I know I shouldn't be." And I said, "Well, tell me why you shouldn't be." He said, "Well, I have a house and I have money and I can get by, but," and I said, "But those are things to be grateful for, but you
Right.
also have a reason to be angry and depressed." And I said, "Maybe if you just let yourself be angry and depressed, that's where happiness lives." And we thought about it for a minute. And he said, "You're kinda right, because you can live in honesty." So I
Right.
think that even in the midst of the hardest things that you can imagine, if you can learn how to accept those things, because I think acceptance is happiness, and I
Yeah.
think to just accept where I really am in life and to go, "Okay, this is where I am," and smile, man, and just go. So fearlessness is to be who I am in fullness, and happiness is choosing to accept that and to move through whatever life hands me in the moment.
I love it. You heard that, everybody. Couldn't have said it better myself, right? Acceptance, right? Well, you know where read that all the time, right? Because sometimes I have to remind myself, right?
Yeah.
Acceptance is the key to all my problems today, right? When I can accept everybody and anything, any situation for exactly how they're supposed to be at this moment, my life's pretty good, right? Because then I don't have to go, well, you know what Jason said on the podcast today really pissed me off or whatever, because he's over there smiling and he's really happy and I'm pissed off today.
Hey man, listen, here's
So,
the whole thing. Your fearless happiness. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. If you want to be happy, you learn how to live that prayer right there.
absolutely. And I think that's why I believe guys like us and others like us, men and women that got that down,
Mm.
are pretty happy
Yeah.
99.9% of the day, every
Mhm.
day, right?
Yeah.
Because we learn. And I love that. Thank you for bringing that up, right?
Yeah.
So Jason, if anybody out there, if the men out there want to get a hold of you because they want to make some life changes, they're struggling with whatever addiction and they want to learn something new and change their lives, how do they get a hold of you?
thesacredgrit.com. If they just go to thesacredgrit.com, there's a contact us page on there. My phone number's on there. And they can book a consultation call on there. I don't charge anything. We could hop on a Zoom call, make sure we're a good fit. I don't take on every client I talk to. It's all about, and I don't only do addiction, I also do spiritual. A lot of Christians that are reconstructing after, post church kind of trauma.
Right.
So that's the best place to go, thesacredgrit.com. And then the podcast, dude. I mean, there's a ton, and all my podcasts are short. And they're all solo. So I do Sunday, I call it Sacred Sunday. Like this past Sunday, we talked about relapse control. And then Wednesday, I call Gritty Wednesday. So on Sunday, I give this idea, and on Wednesday, I give a tool to use. So they're quick, they're 7 to 10 minutes. I can hop on, give it a listen. And there's everything on there, is everything I teach. So theoretically, they could just listen to my podcast and get all the tools they need. But I would love to have you as a client as well. And then I do retreats. And so all that's on the website.
I love it. I love it. I love it. This has been such an awesome time, Jason, and I
Yeah.
knew it would be. Just even from our emails back and forth, I go, this is going to be good.
Yeah, it has been, man.
You know,
Thank you so
I-
much.
Well, thank you, and thank you for bringing it today. I've had such a wonderful time, but you're not quite off the hook just yet,
All right.
right? So now I get to ask you my favorite question that I ask of all my guests, and I end it with this. So Jason, what is the one piece of advice you could help my audience with to help them grow as human beings and become better people?
Wake up in the morning and do one thing that makes you feel loved by yourself. That might be make up your bed. That might be lean over and touch your toes. That might be pick up your journal. That might be read your Bible. That might be go for a walk. That might be a million things. It does not need to be something extravagant, but wake up in the morning and do one thing for the sake of loving yourself. And if you will start right there, just that tiny bit of light in your morning, it will change your entire day. And that little bitty seed, to quote the Bible, that mustard seed will grow into one of the greatest trees in the entire garden.
I love it. I love it. You heard him, everybody. Like I said, Jason, thank you for blessing me with your presence today and being here for my audience and myself. We had such a great time. I know I had such a great time. So again, thank you for being here. It was awesome. That's all.
Thanks, brother.
So you heard him, everybody. Here we go, right? If Jason made you think, if Jason taught you something, Jason made you smile, and my famous, if Jason made you go, I like that. Please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star review so more people can find the podcast, and come join me on my new YouTube channel. So not only do you get to hear Jason and I, you get to see Jason and I have this conversation and the big smiles we got on our faces.
And how good looking we are.
Exactly, right? We're gilfs. Sorry, I had to say that.
I love it.
I couldn't help myself, everybody. But again, thank you for being here. Again, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this world. This is Max from the Fearless Happiness Podcast. Until next time.
Are you tired of being weighed down by life's traumas and struggles? Join the Fearless Happiness lifestyle and let us guide you toward a brighter future. Explore our past podcast episodes and get a copy of the Fearless Happiness book to ignite your inner strength. If you or someone you love is battling addiction or facing challenges related to unresolved trauma, know that we are here for you. Visit maxnijst.org, maxnijst.org, and take the first steps toward finding your fearless happiness. Thank you for listening. This has been a production of Fearless Happiness.